Next, please note down magnetic field lines are continuous closed loops. Why? Magnetic field lines form continuous closed loops. Why? Simple question here. Magnetic field lines form continuous closed loops. Why? As you already know, the magnet will have two poles, north pole and south pole. You break it into pieces, any number of pieces. The individual piece behave like a magnet. It will have both the poles, north pole and south pole. So isolated pole does not exist. Isolated poles do not exist, isn't it? So here the magnetic line. So as you already know, the line or curve along which unit north pole tends to move when placed in the magnetic field. It's called magnetic line of force. They always diverge from north pole, converge at south pole externally, and inside the magnet they move from south pole to north pole, forming a closed loop. And you have to highlight, so magnetic field lines form continuous closed loops. Why? You must substantiate your answer. Support isolated magnetic poles do not exist, right? Then magnetic field lines, magnetic lines of force also you can write. Always they diverge from north pole and then they converge at south pole, and then inside the material magnet they move from south pole to north pole, forming a closed loop, right? They diverge from north pole, converge at south pole, and inside the magnet move from south pole to north pole, forming a closed loop. Isolated poles do not exist, right? Unlike electric lines of force, so they are not closed loops. They can open and escape into space also. Positive charge, they diverge from positive charge, they converge at negative charge. They can escape into space also. The open lines. Here closed lines, always continuous closed lines as far as magnetic field lines are concerned. Hope you understood or written this. Isolated, answer, I'll read the question. Magnetic field lines form continuous closed loops. Why? Make a note of the isolated. It's separate, independent. Isolated magnetic poles do not exist. Do not exist. Magnetic field lines, they diverge from north pole and converge at south pole, and inside the magnet they flow or move from south pole to north pole, forming a closed loop. That must be your answer. They diverge from north pole, converge at south pole, and inside the magnet they flow from south pole to north pole, forming a closed loop. Next, this recently we discussed. Define magnetic declination. Define magnetic declination. Define magnetic declination. DE, definition of magnetic declination. DECLI. Define magnetic declination. This angle between this magnetic meridian, so geographical meridian, this angle, the theta, is called magnetic declination. The angle between the magnetic meridian and geographical meridian is called magnetic declination. The simple definition, the angle between magnetic meridian and geographical meridian called magnetic declination. Magnetic meridian means we already discussed here. So this is a vertical plane passing through a freely suspended magnetic compass needle or magnetic needle. That is a vertical plane passing or consisting the axis of freely suspended magnet. That is called magnetic meridian. it can be defined this way also here. So the true geographic north. This is the angle between true geographic north and north shown by the compass needle. This true geographic north. True geo north. And this is north shown by the compass needle. North shown by compass needle. Needle. Needle means compass needle. This angle between true geographic north and north shown by the compass needle. You can put it this way also. But simpler version is the angle between magnetic meridian and geographic meridian is called magnetic declination. Hope you have written this. Define magnetic declination, the angle between magnetic meridian and geographical meridian is called magnetic declination. Next, define magnetic inclination. Next question, magnetic inclination. Your magnetic inclination. INCLI, inclination. Define magnetic inclination. No confusion. Here, declination. Now here it is inclination. INCLINATION, or it is also called angle. Angle of dip. Now here just try to understand here horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field or vertical component of Earth's magnetic field, then total intensity of magnet. This angle is called angle of dip. Right? So please note down. The angle between the total intensity of Earth's magnetic field with the horizontal or horizontal component of the angle between the total intensity of Earth's magnetic field, angle between the total intensity of Earth's magnetic field and the horizontal at any point, horizontal line or horizontal at any point gives is called magnetic inclination. It is also called angle of dip. All these are the elements Earth's magnetism. That is a declination, the inclination, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. All these are the elements of Earth's magnetic field. So simple. This is the angle made by total intensity of Earth's magnetic field with the horizontal component or horizontal at any point, known as angle of dip. It is also called magnetic inclination. So, written? Hope you understood. So, for as far as IP examination is concerned, angle of dip, angle of is also called inclination and also declination. Both are very, very, very important. Be thorough with it, isn't it? Next chapter. So, this will conclude this chapter, chapter 8, and next chapter 10. Alternating current, AC. AC. As you are familiar, the electric power is generated in the form of alternating current. So time varying, fluctuating current, and then so DC current, AC current. AC is has a lot of advantage over. So DC is easy to generate, easy to transmit with the minimum power losses, and then also you can step up or step down the power with the help of transformer. Transformer works only for AC signals. So for AC only transformer is used. It is the device used to step up or step down the voltages with appropriate with corresponding changes in the currents. The device used to either step up or step down the voltages. Generally, the power stations, hydroelectric power station, thermal electric power station, so there, so high tension, there's a high voltages, so 10,000 and above. That high voltages are transmitted so that the power losses will be minimum. When you reach the consumers, we have substations, there it will be stepped down to lower voltage 220 volts, that voltage is in fact transmitted to consumers. This is how domestic purpose houses, right? So for this transformer, the device, it enables to step down, either step down or step up with appropriate change in the currents. Why? Because power is basic formula. As you know, power is always the product of voltage and current. So V is maintained maximum and I is a minimum as possible. So by this you can minimize the power losses during transmission. Okay, so simple question. We'll just make a note of it. It's very important for IP examination. What type of transformer is used in 6 volts bed lamp? The bed lamps in domestic houses here, small bulbs, so low wattage, right? In bed lamps, we need less power. So step down transformer. In bed lamps, question you write down, what type of transformer is used in 6 volts bed lamp? Step down transformer. Step down transformer. Step down transformer is used in 6 volts bed lamp. Make a note of it. What type of transformer is used in a 6 volts bed lamp? In 6 volts bed lamp, step down. Underline that word, step down transformer is employed or step down transformer is used. Next, what is the next question? Is not done. What is the phenomenon involved in the working of transformer? Working of transformer. Phenomena involved in the working of a transformer. So as you know, so Faraday's laws of electromagnetic, there you might have studied all the details. So self-induction, mutual induction. Here, mutual induction is the working principle. Mutual induction. Mutual induction, align this word, is the working principle of transformer. Please note down. What is the phenomenon involved in the working of a transformer? పరివర్తకం పనిచేయడంలో ఏ దృగ్విషయం ఇమిడి ఉన్నది? So write down. Mutual induction. Mutual induction is the working principle of a transformer. What is mutual induction? You might have studied in detail there. At this point, I'll just remind you. So if you two coils, adjacent coils, right? The vicinity is so the process of inducing an EMF in one coil. The process of inducing an EMF in a coil due to varying current. Varying means changing current in the adjacent coil. That is called mutual induction. Transformer, in fact, it will have two coils, primary coil, primary winding, and then we have secondary winding, right? So if a signal, AC signal is fed to primary coil due to mutual induction, so EMF is induced across the secondary coil as well. So mutual induction is the working principle of a transformer. So here mutual definition is not required, just I'll introduce the phenomenon, the process of inducing an EMF in a coil due to changing current, varying current in the adjacent coil is called mutual induction. Don't get confused, mutual inductance is different. Mutual induction is the phenomenon. Written. What is the phenomenon involved in the working of a transformer? This is a mutual induction. Next, what is transformer ratio? What is transformer ratio? Transformer works only for AC. It doesn't work for DC. Transformer ratio. So transformer will have two coils, primary winding, primary coil, secondary coil, as I already told you. So transformer ratio. this name itself, transform is defined number of turns in the secondary winding or secondary coil is the ratio of number of turns the secondary winding to the number of turns in the primary coil. The defined transformer ratio TR, transformer ratio, defined as the ratio of number of turns secondary winding to the number of turns the primary winding, N2 divided by N1. It is also equal to the output EMF. It is defined as ratio of output EMF to the input EMF. It is also same, both one and the same. Transformer ratio defined as the ratio of number of turns the secondary winding to the number of turns in the primary winding. It is also defined as the ratio of the EMF, output EMF to the input EMF. That is EMF across the secondary winding divided by the EMF across primary winding or primary coil. Written? Next, this numerical problem, very simple and easy. Make a note of it. A transformer converts a transformer converts 200 volts AC into 2000 volts AC. A transformer converts 200 volts AC into 2000 volts AC. Calculate number of turns in the secondary. Calculate the number of turns in the secondary if primary coil has 10 turns. If primary coil has 10 turns. Very simple. Repeat that question. A transformer converts 200 volts AC into 2000 volts AC. Calculate number of turns in secondary if primary coil or primary winding has 10 turns. So transformer ratio here, simple question. Transformer ratio is defined as number of turns in secondary coil to number of turns the primary coil. It is also equal to E2 by En, output EMF divided by input EMF. Here N1 is given 10 turns, E1 is given as 200 volts and E2 is given 2000 volts. Substitute and simplify. The simplest possible question here, problem. Here N2 value we need to calculate. N1 value is given to us 10 turns. E2 value is available given in the problem 2000 volts. And of course E1 is 200 volts. So 2 1s are 2 10s. So N2 equal to 10 into 10. So it turns. Transformer నిష్పత్తికి మనకు ఫార్ములా తెలుసు N2 divided by N1. Transformer నిష్పత్తి, transformer N2 by N1, it is also equal to output EMF by input EMF. సో ఇక్కడ N1 ఇచ్చాడు, E1 ఇచ్చాడు, E2 ఇచ్చాడు ఎక్సెప్ట్ N2. సబ్స్టిట్యూట్ చేసి సింప్లిఫై చేస్తే మనకు సో సెకండరీ వైండింగ్, సెకండరీ కాయిల్ ఉన్నటువంటి చుట్ల సంఖ్య మనకు వచ్చేస్తుంది. రిటర్న్. నెక్స్ట్ is a direct question. Hope you have written this important. Transformer ratio N1 is given, E1 is given 200 volts, here 2000 volts. Substitute and simplify. You will get N2 is equal to 100 turns. Next question. Write expression for reactance. Write expression for reactance of inductance Write expression for reactance of inductor. Right, inductor. Inductor is nothing but a coil like this. And this is a capacitor. Write expression for reactance of inductor. Second one, capacitor. Second one is capacitor. Hope you might have studied in the previous chapters. So what's the capacitor, parallel plate capacitor, then the combination of capacitors, series and parallel capacitors, effective capacitance, derivations, then the effect of dielectric medium, energy stored in a capacitor. All these are important. But here we don't want that all these things here. But anyway, so here remember reactance is nothing but the resistance. The resistance offered by AC. So resistance offered by inductor for the flow of AC called inductive reactance. So inductive reactance is denoted by XL. So given by L omega. L is self inductance. Here L represents self inductance. Here omega, the angular frequency. Angular frequency. This is reactance, inductive reactance, called inductive reactance of an inductor. This XL is denoted by L omega. L is self inductance, omega angular frequency, of course. Second one, for capacitor. What is for capacitor? Of reactance offered by the capacitor is denoted by XC, 1 by C omega. C denotes here capacitance, right? Or it is also called capacity or capacitance. So C represents capacity or capacitance. Both are same. And then omega, of course, so this angular frequency. Direct questions important for competitive exams as well. And the last question, write expression for reactance of inductor and capacitor. For inductor, the reactance is L omega. For capacitor, the reactance, capacitive reactance, it is called capacitive reactance. Given by XC is 1 by C omega. Next, what is the phase difference? What is the phase difference between AC EMF and current? AC EMF and current. What is the phase difference between AC EMF and current? In the following. First one, pure resistor. First one is pure resistor. Write down. So then, second one, pure inductor. So resistance is symbolic reference here, coil, inductor. Then third, capacitor, pure capacitor. So what is the phase difference between AC EMF and current? In the following. Number one, pure resistor, inductor and capacitor. If it is a pure resistor, phase difference is 0. Phase difference is 0 or no phase difference. So in case of pure resistor, so what happens here? Both so will reach maximum and minimum at the same time. So there is no phase difference between the EMF and current, AC EMF and current. There is no phase difference or phase difference is 0. Next, in case of inductor, In case of inductor, lags behind, lags behind, lagging behind, lags behind. Current lags behind the EMF by 5 by 2, 5 by 2 or 90 degrees, 5 by 2 radians or 90 degrees. Your lags behind, so current lags behind AC EMF by 5 by 2, lags behind underline. In case of capacitor, so leads, current leads, so leads or goes ahead, leads by 5 by 2 or 90 degrees. In case of pure capacitor, so current is current leads or goes ahead by 5 by 2 radians 90 degrees. Here for pure resistor, phase difference is 0 or no phase difference. In case of inductor, pure inductor, so the current lags behind 5 by 2 or 90 degrees, 5 by 2 radians, this radians 90 degrees. Here goes ahead, leads means goes ahead. Leads, you can put it leads, right, by 5 by 2 or 90 degrees. So this is about AC, and then so I'll just discuss the important questions related to the semiconductors and then dual nature of radiation to have 2 marks weightage, right? So next, dual nature of radiation and matter. As we already discussed recently, electromagnetic waves, mostly they are focusing on applications. So the electromagnetic waves are concerned, so infrared rays, and then so applications of infrared rays. Recently we discussed, so this is a physical therapy, and then so used to take pictures, photographs in smoky conditions, foggy and smoky conditions. The remote sensors, remote controllers, remote switches also it is used. All these things recently we discussed, isn't it? The infrared rays applications, and then so here so microwaves, so applications of microwaves. So we popularly use domestic purpose kitchen hold item, microwave ovens for cooking purpose. The application very popular application is for cooking purpose. So microwaves are popularly used, isn't it? So microwaves also used for long distance transmissions, all those things. Radar, so radio detection, ranging, to locating the air, so aeroplanes or flights, whatever it may, navigation of flights, we can put it that way, right? Or even we can find the speed of automobiles, say cars or automobiles, speed guns, so tennis or cricket, so speed guns. This technique is used to measure, detect the speeds, isn't it? So cathode rays, so fast moving stream of fast moving electrons are called cathode rays. So what are cathode rays means? A stream of fast moving electrons are called cathode rays. So this is also important in dual nature of radiation. Next, what is work function? Another possible question. In photoelectric effect, we get this. So photometal, alkaline metals like sodium, potassium, when they are exposed to the light of sufficient energy, then the electron is ejected from metal surface. This is light of sufficient energy. The process of emission of electrons when the metal surface is irradiated, exposed to the light of sufficient energy. The process of emission of electrons when the metal is exposed or irradiated to the light of sufficient energy is called photoelectric effect. Then there we come across work function. It is W0 or phi0. It is the minimum amount of energy required to remove an electron. The minimum amount of energy needed, required by an electron, photoelectron. Electron means photoelectron. So to eject or to remove an electron from photometal, called work function. It is written by W0. It is denoted by W0 work function H nu 0. Nu 0 is threshold frequency. It is called threshold frequency. The minimum frequency below which no photoelectric effect is observed. Above that only the electrons are emitted from photometal. That is called threshold frequency. Every metal will have some cutoff, so minimum frequency. Above that frequency only photoelectrons are emitted from metal surface. So give photosensitive substances as already to alkaline metals like sodium, so potassium, lithium, all these are so photosensitive metals. Why? Because they are called so. Why? Because even with the ordinary visible light also they can emit. So that light, ordinary visible light, is sufficient to observe photoelectricals, sufficient to eject electrons from these metals. Therefore, they are called photosensitive metals, right? Alkaline metals like sodium, potassium, lithium, all these metals are photosensitive metal. Why? Because here their work function is very, very small. Even the visible light, ordinary visible light, is sufficient to detach electron, remove an electron, and observe photoelectric effect. Therefore, they are called photosensitive metals.